Okay, so this is the second part of the supply and demand worksheet. So the second part of this involves the supply, the producer's end of this. So the inputs are going to be the price, and our supplier has limits at which they're going to put on how many they're going to offer. But there's a little bit different here. The supplier will never sell a dollar coin for less than $1. And so there's something called a shutdown point. And that's just going to be one of our bounds in the problem, this P1 equals $1 that's listed here. So just like we did with the demand function, I want to draw a graph and I want to start trying to compute some areas here. So I'm going to kind of go through the same motions that I did before, but I'm going to use the supply data for this. I am still going to draw a vertical line at x equals 250. I am going to look at the area of a rectangle. I'm going to look at, well, something called the producer revenue. And then after that, I'm going to talk about the producer surplus. That's going to be the area to the right of things. And, well, let's just see how this all pans out. So if I go back to Desmos, and this is just left off from the last video, this was the demand stuff. I'm going to hide this. I'm going to go back up, hide some folders here. And this time, let me hide the whole model for the demand. This time I want to look at the surplus. Well, if I look at this and there's a point way up here that I didn't see, I'm looking at these points and going, what kind of model can I use here? Well, I'm going to default to an exponential model. So my supply model, again, I'm going to use an exponential, but this time instead of saying y1 tilde, I'm going to use z1 tilde. And remember, it's a b to the x, but remember our input is x1 here. So I get parameters 3.63, well, 3.64 actually, and b is 2.2. So I'm going to plot this, and remember this right here, well, this is a little bit new. This was my cutoff point. This is where my shutdown point was, actually. It starts at no less than $1. So that's what I'm going to put in here, and that's what my function looks like now. It starts at 1 and gets higher. So that's what my surplus function looks like, or surplus model. Again, I'm going to hide the points on you. So the idea here was to draw a line starting at x is equal to 2.5. This is the line at 2.5, and then I want to draw a horizontal line over, and I want to compute the area of that. So this rectangle here has an area. So let me do an area calculation. Well, it's really 2.5 times the height of this function. Well, I could go in here and say the height of the function is about 26.13. So the area calculations, I'm going to have Desmos do some of the work for us here. So my area calculation is right here. It's 2.5 times s of 2.5. That's this curve right here. The actual area that we're looking at is this green area right here. And this is called the producer's revenue. It's the amount of coins that they want to sell times the price. Now, the last part of this, part 8, this is a little bit more complicated. So let me focus on this a little bit here. The producer's surplus. The seller is gonna can sell 10 silver dollars for about $1.40 each, and the next 9 for $2. But the seller was able to sell all the silver dollars from 7B at $2.50 because the demand function at that point, if I go back to Desmos and I look at the demand function here, let me grab the demand model and show the demand model. At $2.50, the demand is greater than the supply. So this can actually happen. There is more in the supply chain than there's less in the supply chain than there is for the demand. So therefore, the seller can sell everything they want. And that's why we call this the supplier or producer revenue. So in other words, this can actually happen. Now, going back and reading the rest of this, there's something called a producer surplus in here. And it's very similar to what we've done with the demand side of it. But in this side, what we have is we're going to have to shade an area of the graph that's under the supply curve, but to the right of the shutdown price and less than the market price. So let me show you what I mean by that on my Desmos curve. So I'm going to get rid of this area for now. And I'm going to put in, there's my shutdown price right there. The area that we want is this region right here. This is the region between the shutdown point and the selling price, but below the surplus curve. So how do I compute the area of this thing? Well, again, it's not a regular shape, so this is where integrals come into play. My lower bound is 1, and my upper bound is 2.5. And that's what I'm doing over here. And remember, this red curve right here, that's actually S. That's the one that we computed before. So the producer surplus at a market price of $2.50 turns out to be about $22.99. And this completes the entire worksheet. If you got questions, let me know. I hope this was helpful. Have a great day. Bye.